Next up, our next guest is Mr. Nat Warning from the City of Boulder, a group that we've had an opportunity to partner with this past year. He's going to be presenting on some of the work they did with drift fences and how that relates to their detection of wildlife, including herps. So give another warm welcome for Mr. Warning.
Thanks, Hunter. I'm just going to hold it. So as Hunter said, I'm from City of Boulder. We are separate from open space and mountain parks. As a lot of you guys know, they manage a lot of the open space around Boulder. We are a smaller outfit, and our sites tend to be a little bit more urban, and we do own some and manage some larger properties that are contiguous with OSMP land as well. And today I'm just going to chat with you guys about a project that we piloted this past season. As we all know, herps can be hard to detect. In some ways you have to be in the right place at the right time, and the life stages progress really quickly. With our small crew, we've basically used 3 different methods to inventory herps on our properties. We use visual encounter surveys. We do most of these in the spring, where we're specifically looking for herps. We do audio monitoring, basically using song meter units, so acoustic recording. And then basically, I would say the bulk of our observations are just in our day-to-day work. So we've got a wildlife database that we can add species to as we encounter them via field maps. We also do use wildlife cameras pretty extensively, but as most of you guys know, wildlife cameras are geared towards larger bodied animals, and even if a herp passes by, it's a long shot that herp is going to trigger a traditional camera. So I would say traditionally the next step that we would take, in doing more comprehensive surveys on our properties is to use a drift fence pitfall trap. So a lot of you guys are familiar with these traps. They've been used for ages, mainly because they're really effective. So basically they intercept animals move along the fence, and then they fall into a trap. If any of you guys have worked with drift fence pitfall traps, you know that it takes a lot of time and resources to maintain the traps. You have to take multiple visits per day to the traps. Also, you end up getting a lot of bycatch. So you've got species falling together in a bucket that just don't want to be together in a bucket. So you get a lot of stress and mortality of your target species. But like I said, they are very effective. And there's multiple configurations. A lot of times it has 3 wings like this with a bucket on each end and then a bucket in the middle. So you're asking Matt, is there something that combines the effectiveness of a pitfall trap, drift fence, with the passive nature of a wildlife camera? And lo and behold, there is something. And this technique was pioneered by Martin et al. Down in Florida. I think they did their work on Merritt Island Wildlife Refuge. So basically this takes the effectiveness of a drift fence. It uses a traditional drift fence where it intercepts animal movement. They move along the fence. And at that point, instead of falling into a trap, the animals pass through a bucket. So basically this kind of flips the pit trap on end. The buckets become little way stations where animals pass through, get their photo taken. And it's much less labor intensive. So we received a grant in spring of last year to pilot 2 drift fence camera arrays on our properties, thanks to Boulder County Nature Association. And I guess the next logical question is, does it work? And it does work. We did get some good results from our drift fences. So we deployed fences. We had two different arrays. We deployed them at 2 sites early in the season that are a little bit more urban and that have more marginal wetlands. We didn't have very much data at these sites. That was Eaton Park in yellow and Pleasant View Park in purple. And about halfway through the season, we moved these fences to more productive sites. Coot Lake in blue up at the top, and then East Boulder Community Park adjacent to South Boulder Creek in red. And we chose these sites because they've both historically had northern leopard frogs present at one time or another. And we've also been doing some small-scale cattail removal projects at both sites. So we wanted to kind of get some good data in those cattail removal areas. So I'll just show you guys a few photos of results. I'll start with snakes. As far as herps go, we saw the most traffic with snakes, which was interesting, including different age classes of yellow-bellied racers, which is good data for us because we know that they're probably breeding nearby. I think these are all racers. It's been a while since I was in Steve's herpetology class. And we set our cameras to trigger, to take 3 pictures per trigger, just so we could get a good sequence and a good view of the animals passing through. These, I would say, are 2 representative sequences for snakes. They would pass into the bucket, use that mironasal organ to kind of sense the environment, feel around inside the bucket, and then they would either go ahead and pass on through the bucket, or sometimes they turn around and hightail it out of there, but we still were able to get a photo of those snakes. As far as turtles go, we did manage to get 2 species of turtles. You can see the western painted turtle has to do a little acrobatics to get through. We also had adult snapping turtles occasionally peeking in. There's no way they could pass through the buckets, but they at least came in to check things out. And the baby snapping turtles, again, gave us good data on confirmed reproduction at some of our sites. Frogs. We did not get as much frog traffic as we expected. And I'm not sure all the reasons for this. I suspect that, like I said earlier, our fences were deployed at less productive sites early in the season when frogs would be expected to maybe be a little more active and moving around. So, yeah, we didn't see as many frogs as we expected. But we did get some, especially in the fall during, I think, dispersal time. Chorus frogs. We did get bullfrogs dispersing, young of year bullfrogs, as well as great big bullfrogs passing through. This table is just a quick summary of species that we did see. Again, with reptiles and amphibians, nothing, I would say, earth-shattering in terms of species, but this was a really effective technique that gave us some good baseline data. We did see mammals. I'm not going to get too much into the mammals, but I will tell you that the drift fences are effective for small mammal sampling as well. We saw everything from shrews all the way up to mink. And I'm told that shrews are very hard to detect even when live trapping, so we were excited to get a couple different shrew species in our arrays. we had birds peek in, so we managed to get some bird inventory as well. I think they just popped in the course of their daily foraging. This is just a quick back of the napkin calculation from our wildlife database of species we were able to add to our inventory lists for each property. So again, nothing too unusual, but we think this is a really effective tool to give some of that baseline data. I put my email address here. I am really happy to help if anyone is interested in implementing this project. That paper that I showed up there, the Martin et al. 2017, has really detailed step-by-step instructions on how to construct a fence, but there's always some logistics that you might run into, so I'm happy to help with construction or any questions that anyone has that wants to implement the project. And if you do decide to implement it, I would definitely use Reconyx cameras. They're pricey, but they're pretty bulletproof, and we didn't have any downtime in our fences. And just perusing their website, I saw that they do have a brand new camera out right here that's got the right shortened focal length and is kind of geared towards this type of sampling. So that's all the time I have. So with that, I'll take any questions. Thanks. Yeah, Steve.
This is really nice design, especially places where we have hard pan soil or rocky areas where there's kind of a pitfall in that. It's virtually
Oh, I can imagine. Yeah.
Do you think you would increase?
It's hard to hear in the room. It's hard to hear.
Do you think you could increase rate of passage through here if you put substrate over the bottom? You don't have plastic.
Yeah, I do think that. I think that's a good idea. I think maybe, and that's something I thought of for next year, to kind of make that substrate a little bit more natural. They might be more prone to just pass on through. The other thing that I was thinking is I'd like to mount a ruler at the base, just to get a little bit of a size comparison. So I think that's something you could maybe combine those two things, and you could get some better results. Yeah.
What kind of data management practices were you using to capture these? So I'm sure you got plenty of photos that you had to go through, but do you have like a database design that you were using to manage these through time?
Yeah, for this year, I just came up with a spreadsheet. So I had a spreadsheet. I'd like to build on that and maybe incorporate this more into a GIS database if we continue with the project. And as far as data management goes, I think one positive thing is we didn't have very many false triggers because the camera is tucked up inside a bucket. So there's not a whole lot of photos to go through. You really, almost every series of photos you get is a trigger, a real detection. So that's another positive. Yes.
I saw you had locks on the cameras, and they're very expensive cameras, and you're in an urban area. Did you lose any cameras? Were the locks effective?
Our locks were effective, yes. We didn't lose any cameras, and we did kind of make that adaptation. We sunk in T-posts and had cable locks running through the bucket and camera. But luckily, our fences did not get disturbed at all. So.
It's time for one more.
Okay.
Did you play around with tripwires at all for these cameras, or did you just use these small cameras?
Yeah, no tripwires, and I'm actually not familiar with that technique, so.
A paper that came out, I think last year, the year before last, they did some gopher frog work because they're trying to get metamorphs. Because like you said, frogs have to trip because they're so cold.
Yeah.
And using laser tripwires, they were getting like everything, like down to the bones.
Okay, okay.
Something you might want to consider, especially if you have a budget for $600 cameras.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, and I will say that The basic Reconyx unit is $400, and they will adjust that focal length for you for free. So that's another option for folks. But no, we just use basic cameras with just the basic motion sensing. I feel like we got a good detection rate, but we probably did miss some colder-blooded animals. Yeah.
I was just gonna ask, are you planning to do any other sites, add any other sites like south? Anywhere else?
Yeah, we definitely want to take this to the next step. We want to use the 2 fences that we have. We're definitely planning on deploying this coming season at different sites. We haven't picked those sites out yet, but we do want to continue the program and hopefully add fences. I didn't mention you just check cameras every 2 weeks, so
Okay.
it's
It's really cool information.
minimal
Thank you for sharing that.
minimal labor. Yep. Thanks a lot.
Well, thank you, Nat. That was super great and helped figure out what those buckets were while we were out surveying. And I was highly confused. But definitely.